Welcome to the Writer Dojo with your host, Steve Diamond
We're back.
and Larry Correia.
Howdy, partner.
Today's episode, Writing Nonfiction.
There's a snake in my boot. All right, we're back, everybody. Welcome to the Writer Dojo, one of the only writing advice podcasts out there where we give you the unfiltered, honest truth with lots of nuts and bolts in it. That's what we do, Larry.
It's true. And also, something we forgot to mention last episode, because it was our, we did this recently, and we opened up a Facebook.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot to talk
I
about that in the
totally-
last episode.
Well, we'll just pretend that this is the first time. We'll just pretend that we just did it.
We have this brand new Facebook group, everybody.
You guys don't know when we record these. Okay, so what happened was, this is actually Jack's idea, was to put together a Facebook page. Basically, it's just a writer's group. So it's the Writer Dojo on Facebook. And we went from like 100 members for the first couple weeks, and then like actually went public with it. And it jumped up to like 700 and something that like in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, I don't even know how many we have now. It's
And
nuts.
it's almost all writers, every level too. We've got pro writers all the way down to aspiring writers. And is the whole purpose, guys, if you want to check it out, is it's a online writers group kind of thing that's not woke, and no one's going to yell at you to get sensitivity readers. It's very lightly moderated in that you guys are grown-ups. You're not babies.
Yeah.
We had one guy get really butthurt at me because like somebody else was mean to him or disagreed with him or something, and
They weren't even mean. They just disagreed. They had a moment where like one person said, "I'm not super fond of Tolkien and Herbert, I think."
yeah,
And he got offended.
yeah, and he's like, well, I can see this is the kind of place where people reinforce. It's like, dude, shut up. And that was and he talked to me after, and I was like, and I had zero mercy. I was like, you guys are grown-ups. I was like, what do you think this is? One of those social justice things where I'm going to like go in there and massage your delicate feelings? Nah, you guys are grown-ups. You work it out.
Real life is not delicate.
No, so it's
Just
really
grow
good.
up.
We actually got people who are different experts in different areas or offering advice. There's a lady who knows horses, which was very useful for a lot of people.
There was a so people all of a sudden went nuts and started introducing themselves all over the place. I didn't have the heart or the stamina to do that myself.
Well, they already know me and you.
I know.
Yeah.
I almost put something really snarky up, but I'm like, I'm too tired.
All I put was, I was like, I am the UN ambassador from Krasnovia. That was my entire bio there.
Well, but then someone was really smart and said, hey, all of you people who've been saying what you do and what you're experts at, can you just comment on this post what you're experts at? So it's kind of this like Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, I think it was Matthew Bowman did that.
Was it Matthew that did it?
Yeah, very smart guy, editor.
So they did that, and I was reading through that. There's some cool people on there.
Yeah. So check it out, guys. It might be a good resource for you as a writer. Because
Just some. Some of you suck.
Yeah, some of you say it. But
I'm just kidding.
if you're horrible, just read, but don't comment. No. All right. So this episode, we're going to be talking about something that is kind of new on the Writer Dojo.
I was going to say for the Writer Dojo, it's new. This stuff has existed for a long time.
Yeah, this stuff has
Turns
existed since the history of writing. However, we're going to talk about nonfiction and writing in the nonfiction market.
This is really bizarre. I've done very little of it. And when I do nonfiction, it's generally in the form of essays and articles and stuff.
Yep.
I've written a couple of these things for almost more like op-eds sort of a thing where I'm talking about, horror and stuff.
Well, and you've done some business ones too.
I've done some business ones. I've written, I've done a lot of writing and documentation and stuff like that. And I've been on tons of panels talking about like business logistics.
And I actually started out in nonfiction. It was the first paying writing I ever did.
Right.
And then I wrote for gun magazines. I did product reviews and wrote up I would go to a match and then I would write up what the match was like, that kind of thing. But me and Steve are primarily fiction writers.
Yeah.
Well, until recently.
Yeah, it turns out Larry got offered a job.
Yeah, and the thing about being a writer, guys, is you got
Larry 2 jobs.
Larry 2 jobs.
Remember that?
Yeah. I was Larry 2 jobs for many years. No, so when opportunities come along, guys, you want to be in a position you can take advantage of them. And as a writer, it's always nice to be able to venture into other areas, and you don't know how it's going to work out. So I was approached because of current events to write a book about gun control and gun control politics. And I'll go into more details on why and that kind of thing. And I learned a lot about the timeline of nonfiction, especially political books. They tend to be very oriented in current events, which means the turnaround time is very, very swift. And we just put this book up for pre-order, and it surged to the top of the Amazon bestseller lists. So right out the gate, this is looking like I might actually make a little bit of money at nonfiction. But
what I'm curious about, Larry, for you, now, in the very limited stuff that I've done, I found that the process is very different.
Extremely. Yeah, it's really weird. Now, one thing was I had 1 month to write 60,000 words, which in fiction would be pretty tight. That's
a
pushing it.
lot.
That's a lot.
I mean,
that's hard.
That's a lot of work.
But for this, because it was a topic that I have been studying for basically 30 years, since my late teen years, I have been a super hardcore gun nut. And for many years, I've been very politically active on the subject and involved. And because of that, it was like kind of one of those, yeah, you could write a book in 30 days if you studied it for 30 years beforehand.
Yeah.
And so also I had all my copious blog writings on those topics. So what I did is, actually it was the editor, went through and my blog before they approached me, and he had gone through my blog and picked out his favorite articles I had written about gun stuff.
Oh, I didn't know this part.
Oh, yeah. And so he's like, hey, I want you to incorporate these. You know, obviously we had to clean them up, modernize them, fix them up, and incorporate this stuff as topics in the book. And I don't think a single one survived unscathed more than 10 paragraphs in a row. Everything got chopped to pieces and moved around. But yeah, so it was a really interesting process. And also, I didn't write for a month straight. I actually wrote for about 3 weeks straight. And then I spent 1 week doing endless citing. And I remember where I would go and I would look up the facts to make sure I got my numbers right and to cite where those facts came from and where I had got all my information. That way people could see the footnotes and go back and check themselves.
Now, to be clear, what you did not do, and this is very much like the research faux pas, and that's making your assumptions and then going and looking for stats that conform to your way of thinking.
So this was stuff
these
that
are different.
I already knew.
This is stuff you've known. Okay, you've cited these things before. You've talked about them before. They're public knowledge. I mean, for a lot of people,
yeah, for anybody who pays attention.
If you pay attention, it's public knowledge. So it's not like you were just like, well, I think that all unicorns are blue, so I'm going to go find a study that conforms this. Because look, statistics can be whatever you want them to be.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I discovered in citing this stuff is that anytime it's a politically charged discussion, it's very interesting to see how wildly divergent the estimates are. And then you delve further into the numbers and you find what their methodologies are and what their assumptions are.
And who paid them.
And you'll discover quickly on many politically motivated things that you can find whatever answer you want, because half the answers are garbage.
Well, it's like the old accounting joke, right? Like,
yeah, what's 2 plus 2?
Yeah, it's like, well, what do you want it to be?
Yeah.
Right?
Which is actually not how accounting works.
No, it totally isn't.
I mean, that's how accounting works if you want to go to jail.
IRS, if you're listening, I would never subscribe to such thing.
No, that would be bad. All 87,000
IRS agents. You can tell when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things that I found about it is that my brain works differently when I'm doing this.
It's a very different process in fiction.
I remember I was writing an article. Who was I writing this for? It was some nonfiction collection of essays on horror. And I wrote this article called What If Every Novel is a Horror Novel? Because it sounds like a very Steve thing to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going through it and I'm thinking very differently. But because I've thought about this stuff so much, I mean, gosh, dude, like how many panels on horror, how many presentations have I done on horror?
Dozens and dozens. Yeah.
Just like, and then conversely for you, like, how many articles have you written? How many classes, how many courts have you testified in front of when it comes to gun stuff? Like hundreds, right?
Classes, holy crap!
So many classes. I mean,
Well, so like I wrote the portion on use of force laws basically off of memory, because it's like I used to teach a 5-hour class, by 5 or 6 hour class. Well, it was about 5 hours and a couple hours of role playing, and I would run this class.
And not in the sexy way.
No, it was not. It was me stabbing you. That's not sexy. Me playing a bad guy, and I would teach this class once or twice a week for several years.
Right.
And so I basically just, I when I got to my use of force section, it's like, hey, here's 5,000 words from memory that I was just like regurgitating what I had said 1,000 times. So when you're writing nonfiction and it's a subject that you know that you're a subject matter expert on, I can see how you could get really super high word count.
Oh, easy.
Way more so than fiction.
So remember after, oh gosh, what's the name? What's the name of the shooting con now?
JoinderCon?
JoinderCon now?
Yeah, JoinderCon.
So JoinderCon 2, this one that we just passed, we had a dinner afterwards. There's me, you, Massa, I think Hampson was there.
Oh yeah, so of the writers, the micro writer dinner.
Yeah, and then Haskins.
Aaron Haskins.
And Haskins was there.
Rob Hampson and Mike Massa.
Yeah.
And me and you and all
and our families and stuff, right? We were chilling there talking about stuff. And I make some offhand comment about horror. And the next thing I know, Massa's is like, well, Steve, what is horror? And 30 seconds later, I'm deep into this like philosophical discussion on what horror is and how it works and how it functions.
It was like the Algonquin round table.
It just went, and
I was cooking burgers.
And everybody, all of a sudden, like there's just this wall of information that came to everybody. And by the end of it, they all just looked at me and they go, "You've talked about this a few times, haven't you?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." And I think about it all the time.
Yeah, you got areas of expertise like that you're passionate about anyway. You've done the research.
Yeah.
You've done the thought. You've percolated on the thoughts for years beforehand. So when you get an opportunity to put this stuff on paper, from a nonfiction perspective, it's super easy. Because you know all the persuasive arguments, you know how to talk about it, you know how to present it. If someone's to come along and they were to ask me to write a nonfiction book about cooking,
that'd probably be a problem.
I would be up a creek. I would be doomed.
Yeah, you'd be like, "Steve, can I borrow your smoking notes?"
Yeah. I just basically, I would just have Bridget write it, and then I would clean it up and edit it, because she actually knows this stuff.
Bridget's a good cook.
Oh, my wife is such a good cook.
She's a good cook.
She put herself through college as a chef.
Yeah,
so.
she knows what she's doing.
No, but I'm, if it's a topic that you're passionate about, though, like you and horror, no problem. You could have a scholarly discussion about the history of horror on
any day you want.
Yeah, no problem. And so me and guns.
Any day you want.
Was actually interesting. So,
and I mean, how many times have you and I had that discussion?
Oh,
like hundreds of times?
Hundreds of times, yeah. And if you know how to present your information in a way that educates, one of the keys on it, and when you're writing nonfiction is right out the gate, who are you writing it for? What's your target audience?
Yeah.
Because there's basically, especially if it's a politically divisive issue or a controversial issue,
sure.
Are you writing to preach to the choir, people who already agree with you? Are you writing to sway the undecided? Or are you writing to prove the other side wrong, or to them directly? That's never going to happen.
I was going to say that third one is going to be super ineffective.
Yeah, that's not going to happen outside of a court of law. So really,
and preaching to the choir, I mean, there's a bit of an echo room thing in there, right?
Right.
And so you want that second one, I think, is where the fun stuff is.
So my target, the way I wrote it, was towards the center.
Yeah.
And that I'm trying to sway people. I was also clear in that I am super biased. Yeah. I am super pro-gun.
Yeah.
I am very much obviously on one side of this debate, and this is a defense paper. I'm writing why my side's right.
The story is literally called, or the story. It's not a story.
Yeah.
Gosh dang. I don't, okay, this is the
There's
problem.
Stories in it.
I mean, the work of nonfiction, Larry, is called In Defense of the Second Amendment.
Yes.
And I believe it comes out January 23rd or something like that.
Yeah, it comes out in January. And it's interesting, we are already bestseller and we were hit number one bestseller in 6 or 7 Amazon bestseller lists already in the first 24 hours of it going live. And so it's kind of blown up huge, and Amazon has picked it up as one of those promotional things. So it's actually, they discounted the hardcover price and sent it out on an email to everybody, which is cool. Everybody who's already pre-ordered it gets the lower price, which is neat. And
Nice.
then also, I've never had this before in all the years I've been doing this. I guess this happens with political books. I have like three so far little crappy imitator books have popped up that are ripping off my name and title.
Well, they're like, I don't know that they're ripping
Well, they're
off your
saying
name,
it's
but
a
they're saying it's a
response.
response or a review
Yeah.
of your piece of nonfiction.
Which doesn't come out for 5 months, and the
I
only
know.
people who've read it are literally me, the editors, you, and Jack.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, listeners, I quite enjoyed it.
Well, I thought it was pretty good.
You sent it to me, and I swear the last few times you've sent me something to read, like Lost Planet Homicide 2, my response to you is, oh man, I don't know that I'm going to be able to read this and chat with you about it. I'm kind of tired right now and I'm slammed. And then 30 minutes later, I'm like, yeah, so I read the thing.
Yeah, actually, that's been the last couple. Or something. It's not 30 minutes later. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I get the email.
It's like, hey, by the way, that was really good, Larry. Nice.
Yeah.
I like on Lost Planet Homicide 2, I'm like, I only have one real piece of feedback for you, and that has to do with this, and this.
Yep.
With this, I didn't have any feedback for you because what am I going to tell you, that you're wrong on your gun stuff?
Well, the only thing we did,
Come on.
honestly, was we moved some stuff around.
Yeah.
So we need to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about like how the nonfiction industry works and getting into it and that kind of thing.
Because it's freaking weird.
Well, and it's also nonfiction is different than politics and nonfiction.
Oh,
which-
okay.
Very different. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we'll take a break.
We'll be right back.
Cassandra Blake, an employee for the Ascension Planetary Holdings Group, the largest and most powerful corporation in Nova Columbia, has gone missing, and her sister wants to know why. When questions need answering on Nova Columbia, Detective Ezekiel Easy Novak is the man folks turn to. He gets results, one way or another. But what begins as a routine missing person case quickly turns into something much bigger and more sinister, with implications that could affect the entire planet. It seems Cassandra wasn't just investigating her employer. She had uncovered a secret effort to excavate and exploit an ancient alien artifact known only as the Seraph. Soon, Easy finds himself trying to unravel a conspiracy that may implicate not only Ascension, but the cult-like Cosmic Ontological Foundation and the highest echelons of the Terran Confederation itself. Trouble Walked In by Mike Kupri. Available now on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold.
Welcome back, everybody, to this thrilling, exciting episode of the Writer Dojo, where we're talking about non-fiction.
When I should have specified early on, because like a lot of times when we write it, when we talk about fiction topics, we know our stuff.
Yeah.
We've written a lot. We've been doing this a long time. For full disclosure on nonfiction, I am a noob. This is my first foray into a nonfiction book.
Okay, to be clear, a non-fiction book.
Yeah.
Because both you and I have written a crud ton of like non-fiction blog type stuff.
Yeah. This is the first I said paying novel or paying book.
There we go. I think that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, so published paying book. Now, one thing, guys, is there's two variants here. There's basically political and current events nonfiction, and then there is expertise nonfiction.
Okay.
Or like if you're writing a history book or a book about things that you know a lot about, that's going to be different. That's going to be still a process where you're going to still go out and you're going to pitch it like anything else. You're going to network with publishers, that kind of thing, agents. Our political is a little different in that it moves at the speed of current events because they want to strike while the iron is hot. So if there's something in the news, for me, it was the Supreme Court Bruin versus New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Supreme Court decision.
Okay, so let me see if I got this timeline right, because the timeline on this is freaking nuts.
Yeah.
So the decision comes down.
It was about to come down.
Okay, so they were still deliberating on it.
Yeah, they were deliberating on it.
So the decision's about to come down.
Well, they were already done deliberating, but we knew they were going to announce it like within a week.
And right around the same time, maybe a little bit, maybe like a couple days after this, you get the notification from our old pal Tony Daniel, like, "Hey, buddy, How you doing?
So what it is so Tony Daniel is at Regnery, and Tony Daniel used to be at Band. He was one of the editors at Band.
Oh, I love that man so much.
Great dude. Love Tony. And Tony has edited novels of mine. And so he's over at this publishing house now that does basically political nonfiction, current event nonfiction, history books, that kind of thing. And so this is coming down, and they're like, well, we need a book about gun control. And who do we know to write a book about gun control fast? And at that point, Tony Daniel was like, I know a guy. I know the perfect guy.
I know the guy.
I know the guy, and I have a rep. And also, as a fiction writer, Tony knows that I can churn out clean copy.
Well, and you worked with him for a freaking decade.
Yeah, Tony has edited many of my books,
Yeah.
going back to the Dead Six series.
Mm-hmm.
I think he edited like Alliance of Shadows. I think with Tony. So a long time.
Tony Daniel's awesome. He's a big Justified fan,
Oh yeah, great dude.
which means he's awesome.
Yeah, when it's actually for my book, we actually got our Art Mullen. We have from Justified. We have Nick Searcy. The actor is the forward.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I
Nick
forgot about that.
Yeah, Nick Searcy's my forward, which is pretty baller. And the forward he wrote was so nice.
Oh, good. I didn't
was
see
so
the
cool.
forward. I just got the draft.
In fact,
so I
we
didn't
probably
see
had
the
to
forward.
tone it down a little bit because it was like, remember I was talking about like what audience you're writing it for, and Nick was just like, said what he, and Nick is so awesome, and we're like, okay, Nick, I love you, man, and this is what the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me just like taking and just murdering people on Twitter. If I'm gonna have to tone it down a little bit,
Allegedly.
he's such a good dude. I love that guy. He's awesome. That dude's a warrior.
So it comes down.
Yeah, so Tony.
They tell you, Tony's like, hey guys, chill. I know a guy.
I know a guy. And so Tony, this is the case where the publisher came to me. And we've talked about this before, where usually it's vice versa, where you are submitting to publishers, you are, trying to get your stuff out there.
But if you're a publisher and we're talking about a book that's based upon very, very current situations, they can't afford to wait for submissions on stuff. They have to go out and seek it out.
In a situation like this, they're going to pick someone who is a subject matter expert and who they know can write what the kind of product that they're looking for at that time.
Right.
And plus, for me, don't tell them this. I'm going to say this. I would have did this for free because for me, it's a passion project.
Joke's on you, Tony.
Yeah, I was like, and they're like, I agreed to do it. And actually, I started working on it immediately before we had any contracts.
Oh yeah, you sent me a text about it the day you got the offer, and you're like, bro, I'm working on this right now.
Yeah, I was working on it immediately.
Yeah,
and I was like compiling every article I've ever written on the subject to see how do I want to do this? And then so Tony got back to me with the advance that it honestly didn't matter at all. Plus, I knew that I would sell enough that at any advance I'd be fine. That said, it looks like it's blowing up rather huge. The reaction.
Last I saw, you were in a bunch of the weird, all the bizarre subcategories of Amazon. You were number one in almost all the political
I was number
ones.
one and number two in almost all of them.
Yeah.
And then
you were number one and number two.
Yeah, because the ebook was separate from the hardcover.
That's pretty dude, that's pretty freaking rad.
And so I got the 126 on all of Amazon, which if you guys didn't realize, that's
all of Amazon.
All of Amazon. Okay, so to put that in perspective, guys,
That was
most books
you book bombed yourself.
I did book by myself. Most books don't get that high on Amazon if you're a genre fiction kind of guy, because if you ever go and look at the very top of Amazon, like the top 100, it's not, for the most part, regular writers.
No, it's like Oprah Book Club.
It's Oprah Book Club, major media tie-in, like the new hit movie has the book for it, or it's classics. It's stuff like, every high school student in America has to buy this book.
Boo.
That kind of thing. Or the Hungry Caterpillar.
Boo.
It's stuff that's been around for a million years. And so basically, as a genre fiction guy, we don't normally get in there. And
Right.
But I got to number 14 in all of nonfiction for a
Jeez.
book that's not coming out for 5 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy.
Man, that's awesome.
So it's blown up huge. And actually, because of that, I've wound up, I've been on 2 radio shows so far this week, and I got another one coming up tomorrow and another one coming up later this week.
Right.
Yeah, so nonfiction politics, guys, it's a weird genre. I can't really tell you how to get into it.
Well, again,
I blundered into it.
well, yeah, in this one you were like voluntold to get in there.
Yeah, because this is something that I've been, like I said, I've been passionate about and working on and knowledgeable and did professionally for many, many years.
I think if we look back on it, we should, like, our real reaction should be, well, I guess it was only a matter of time.
Yeah, and it's funny because what it is in 2012 I wrote an article called "Opinion on Gun Control."
I remember that.
That went super insanely viral.
I remember you came into work. And things had just gone nuts because I think, what was it, Pajamas Media that picked it up?
Yeah, well, Instapundit,
Instapundit,
and then I wound up on Fox News.
Right.
Wound up on a bunch of radio shows. And because what happened, I wrote this article, and it was just basically one of the best articles written on the subject. So many people shared it that I had like, I would say it was like 1 million readers that week, and I was like 5 million by the next week.
Yeah, your website crashed.
Oh, yeah, it obliterated my website. It got reprinted in all sorts of places, too. I gave everybody permission to reprint it, and it appeared in Soldier of Fortune.
Mm.
You know, it was everywhere. And so I can't really tell you guys exactly how to get into this yourselves, but if you are a fiction writer already, and you write, and you've got the skill sets, and you can demonstrate that you are the go-to expert on a topic, you know, this is the kind of thing that you can get out there, that you are the guy.
Well, and maybe not the guy.
Or a guy.
But as long as you're a guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's dudes who know more about guns than I do.
Of course.
But I probably write better. I write more books than they do.
And that's the interesting, you know, in our defense contracting days, we both worked with a lot of SMEs.
Yeah.
Just tons and tons and tons of SMEs.
Subject matter expert.
Sorry. Subject matter expert. SMEs is what we call them.
Yeah, not Smee the Bee.
No. Not Captain Hook's first mate. So we worked with tons of these guys. The thing with most SMEs is that, like, they can barely put two coherent sentences next to each other in public.
Yeah, they're good for one thing.
They're good for that thing.
Yeah.
So if you can write and you happen to be a SME, man, there's some good opportunities. And you know, like a year ago, Larry, it's funny, a year ago when we started this podcast, neither you or I think would have even thought that this would have been one of our topics coming up.
Yeah, because neither one of us knew a dang thing about nonfiction.
No.
We're outsiders looking in.
No. And then suddenly, out of the blue, like you're writing a 60 or 70,000 word book in 3
I'm one of the
weeks.
best sellers.
And you're a crazy bestseller for it.
Yeah, which was kind of like, well, I didn't see that coming. But yeah, that's pretty baller. Won't lie. But plus, here's the thing. It's a subject that I feel so strongly about that, like I would have did it for free, because it's all about, for me, it's about moving the needle on the debate. It's about educating people and getting people smarter, because this is a subject where people are very passionate but very ignorant.
Dude, there's a lot of dumb people talking about this.
Oh my gosh, it's so infuriating. And so rather than that, I want to go out there and I want to try to raise the bar and try to get people smarter.
Well, and demystify it.
Yeah. Now, that said, I'll tell you, it's funny as heck, though. So, you know, I do this thing where I don't recommend this for most authors, but people are like, wow, Larry, you seem to fight with a lot of people on the internet.
Oh,
but yet, how do you get so much work done? And people are
everyone needs their hobbies.
Like, well, Larry, you should be working. No, you guys don't realize. The way my brain works is I can write for a couple hours, maybe an hour or two, and I write in bursts. Then I will go and I will run out of juice, and I will stop, and I'll go out on Twitter. I will find a moron. They usually come to me. I'll just say something, anything.
It's a target-rich environment.
Controversial. Guaranteed a bunch of morons will come and yell at me. I have a gift. I can pick out the best moron. I will pick out somebody, and I'll get into a fight with them, and I'll rip them apart, and then I'll go, and I'll be charged up. Then I'll go.
I was gonna say it gives you your energy.
It does.
You're like Superman getting charged by the sun.
It's a power up, like in a video game. So I break the vase, eat the diamond or whatever, and go back to work. But that said, if you I was playing too much Zelda in the old days, but think about this though. Having just wrote a book about the subject and then spending a week straight, all day, every day, for like 12 to 16 hours a day, looking up stats.
Wow. And you and I were talking about this when you were in the heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And you were looking up some heavy stuff.
It was a little depressing, too, getting into, like, mass killings and stuff. But, so I'm fighting with these people, and they're just Twitter dorks. And everything they know they got from, like, sound bites.
Some Facebook meme.
Then they try to argue with me, a guy who literally spent the last week, I just spent the last 60 hours straight going over every single document I could find about the subject. Oh my gosh, it was like clubbing baby seals out there, man.
And not in the way of club and seals. Like that one of my favorite memes. No.
Yeah.
More like
No.
the death part.
Yeah, not clubbing seals. But no, it was it was bad. Yeah, so I was pretty tuned up though. No, and so honestly, guys, I don't know. I don't. This is a subject that I don't really know how to tell you how to get into it. But all I can tell you is being good at it's going to come down to passion and thoroughness.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately because so you sent me the advance kind of manuscript or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I was trolling through it, reading
Super
it.
rough draft.
Very rough draft. I was reading through it, highly entertaining, and tons of information in there. So I was trolling through it, reading it, and I'm just like, yeah, this is cool. This is cool. I was reading it on my phone. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading Larry's newest book. Shush.
Shush, woman.
Let me read my friend's book on guns. So I'm reading through it on my phone, which is probably one of the least effective ways to read a story.
Yeah, totally.
But I'm reading through it, and the interesting thing that it brought up in my head was, am I missing opportunities myself?
That's a good question.
Am I, all of these thoughts, okay, look, we get on here every week. We talk about all these different things that we've experienced. And after a certain point, we kind of become experts in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
For you, it was, you've been doing gun stuff for years and years and years. Whether I realized it or not, I've been into horror, in the intricacies of it. And I've thought a lot about it for years and years and years and years. And I kept thinking, gosh, like, if Larry's doing this and maybe I'm missing some opportunities. Maybe I should be putting my thoughts to literal paper when it comes to this. And then I thought, okay, well, if I'm doing this, and I was thinking of the Writer Dojo group that we have, in that thread specifically where we have all of the people talking about all the cool things that they do. Man, there's some rad stuff in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking, my gosh, these people are all writers at various stages in their development, but they're all writers. They could totally challenge. And there's quite a few people, and I responded to someone in our group because they were saying how they kind of wondered if they were like an outsider here because they wanted to write nonfiction. And I told that person, I said, don't ever, ever feel like you're an outsider in this group. This group has no outsiders. Like, we love you all.
No, very specifically,
it's literally the opposite.
It's literally, we're all the outsiders from everywhere else.
Exactly.
We're all the people that got thrown. We're all the writers that got thrown out of all the other polite ones.
Right. And so I just can't help but think that those of us who happen to be writers, who also happen to be SMEs in some, either well-known or obscure or whatever discipline, that, man, this is an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, did you know Les Johnson actually got a science book coming out?
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Like, I don't know the details.
Is it about
on
aliens?
No, it's just about, it's like a popular science book.
Man,
I'm really excited though, because Les is a great writer and a genius.
I'm super bummed he's not going to be there.
Les Johnson was supposed to actually, we're doing a book signing tomorrow night here in Utah, and Les Johnson.
Which by the
was
time
supposed to join us.
by the time this airs, it'll be last
it'll
week.
be over by the time we air this. But yeah, Les Johnson was supposed to have been here with us, and we're bummed that Les couldn't make it because he's a stud. He's a great dude. But yeah, so that's he's a science fiction author, but he's also a real life subject matter expert on space exploration.
Or Hampson, Rob Hampson.
Oh my gosh, Rob Hansen.
Dude is so
also a science
smart.
fiction author, but he's predominantly, most of what he's written has been big brain neuroscience stuff.
It ain't fair how smart that guy is.
No, Rob is definitely a contender for a Nobel Prize one of these days.
I hope we're going to be at FenCon here in September, and Rob's also going to be there. Fingers crossed. We can do a little bit of recording, some Writer Dojo live, baby.
Yeah, we're gonna try to record some Writer Dojos at FenCon
and get some good Rob Hampson goodness on this show.
I hope so. And we also have, Les is going to be
Oh,
there
and Chuck
too.
is there.
And Chuck is there also.
And Chuck, speaking
If
of
we can
smart
get those
dudes,
guys, that would be awesome.
good heavens, that's a lot of
Yeah.
people who are way smarter than us.
Oh, gosh. No, Chuck Gannon makes the rest of us look like idiots.
Gosh.
Yeah, Chuck is so much smart. Yeah, he's...
Okay, after we get them on, we need to get someone really dumb on so we sound smart again.
Okay. That's not a problem.
I was about to start making some snarky name comments, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
I'm going to be
they're all
professional.
friends. They're all friends of
I'm
ours.
going to be professional today. So, okay, look. Writing nonfiction. It's my takeaway from our conversation right now, Larry, is that there's so much opportunity for our listeners in this because we have writers. Like all of our people are writers, and they almost all of them, all across the board have these weird random things that they are so freaking good at. Man, write that crap up.
Yeah, I can't tell you guys.
I don't know this is going to make you money.
Yeah, I can't tell you how big your market's going to be. Nonfiction's weird. It's a weird thing. And like I said, and we're not experts on this one.
No.
I am a lucky beginner
Yeah.
on this one.
And hey, later on, we'll seek out a few of these people who do this professionally.
Yeah.
And we'll see if they have any wisdom that we don't know about. Maybe get them on.
We have some people we know that would actually be really good on this topic.
Exactly.
To bring on.
So, for what it's worth, everybody, we're pretty kind of gee-whizzed and enthused about the possibilities of this. Look, again, we're hardcore capitalists, man.
Oh,
And what we want is for you to write something that entertains and can make you money. Nowhere in there is a rule that says it has to be fiction.
Yeah. That's just our bread and butter. That's just what we know.
That's what we do. And guns and murdering people. But that's besides the
we
point.
said it's all about getting your product that you love in front of the audience that wants to buy it.
Yep.
That's it.
That's all it is. And you know what? If that's nonfiction, man, freaking do it.
Absolutely.
All right. That's all the time we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. All of you Writer Dojo supporters, we love you. Thank you so much for your kind support. For those of you who aren't Writer Dojo supporters, we hate you. How dare you not help us get out of the struggles in the pits of despair that is the corporate America. No, we still love you too, because you guys are awesome. You bring up great conversations on the Writer Dojo Facebook. I believe it or not, I actually read quite a bit of that group. And I comment on quite a few of these posts. And I've seen such great, wonderful conversations happening. And the thing that I'm impressed with the most, Larry, and it's truly why we started this. I've seen so many people, just threads upon threads upon threads of people helping each other with just no nonsense advice.
Yep.
And it's so awesome to see this community that we're building.
No, so check it out, guys, and hopefully it's something that can help you in your career.
Yep.
Just our only rule in there is don't be a walnut. I mean, don't be a douchebag.
Yeah.
If you're a douchebag though, and you get eaten, I'm just gonna laugh at you. You know.
Oh, we will. I mean, dude, we'll join in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I've had to stop myself from being Darkest Timeline Steve a couple times over the past couple weeks.
The only time that it's the only author that I allow people to mock openly is George Martin.
Well, that's different. He's not an author anymore. He
No,
doesn't
that's
write.
just, so that's just about work ethic. But that's just a personal thing.
So, all right. Anyway, that's it. That's all we got for you today. This is the Writer Dojo. Take it easy.
Writer Dojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Bear and Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Knight. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on the Writer Dojo, email ads@writerdojo.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
the way of clubbing seals.